And that story by Sylvia Chebet leads us now to Opinion Court and our discussion. Allow me to reintroduce to you my panel this evening. I'm so pleased to be able to host, of course, let me start to my far right, Adan Duale. He is the Majority Leader in Parliament. Thank you for coming. Millie Odhiambo, she's an Mbita MP and, of course, an Opposition MP. Thank you for coming as well. Our resident political analyst, Dr. Edward Kisiangani, also here with us. And, of course, Abdikadir Mohammed, who is the President's legal advisor on devolution and the Constitution. I want to begin on a general note, and I would like to start with you, Millie, since you are the other lady in the room tonight.
Yes.
What did you think of the President's speech? What did you make of its quality?
Well, in summary, I could call it utabiri wa hali ya taifa. It talked more of the future than the present. If you look at the Constitution, what we are supposed to be looking at is 1 year into the office. And what you listen to the President talking about is, I will, I will, I will. And again, in terms of priority, he prioritized the wrong things. He put in the issue of sovereignty, which is very selfish because we equate sovereignty to ICC when we have Baby Osinya, which is talking to issues of security and issues of terrorism. He only gave lip service. So I agree with Jakoyo when he said 46 minutes of nothing, absolute nothing.
Of course, I'll give Pro-Jubilee a chance to respond to that, but let me move on still with you. What do you think of security in the country? The President did outline various things that he believes his government has done. He, of course, impressed the need to stay on in Somalia and stabilize the region. He talked about Kenyans remaining united across their faiths, despite the fact that terror attacks seem to be wanting to separate, to split the country along religious beliefs. He talked about crime going down, violent crime down by 8%, the Nyumba Kumi initiative, and CCTV. What do you think of that?
What I can tell you is there's a lot of kusema bila kutenda. Because if you ask any Kenyan that you say crime has gone down, they'll tell you crime has actually increased. I mean, before this year, I never heard of even the president or deputy president's relatives being targeted. Now nobody is safe. If the president is not safe because his own relatives are not safe, then you are telling me security has gone down? It has actually gone up. Perhaps the police are sleeping. They are not covering incidences of violence and insecurity, or they are actually covering up of figures. Because increasingly it's more insecure to go to your house than it was last year. So for me, really, I think what the President has done is not owning up. They did not believe in this Constitution, both of them. They went around the whole country trying to dissuade people from this Constitution. So they have absolutely no clue how to implement it. And I know my good friend, Honorable Abdikadir, who was my chairman in the constitutional implementation and even the drafting of the Constitution. I'm sure in his private moments, he's extremely embarrassed at where he's sitting.
Are you embarrassed?
Not at all, not at all. And it's good to see Millie after almost a year. No, I'm not. And if you saw the speech, it was really the number of times the President said, as per the Constitution, as I am expected by the Constitution, the number of values he outlined. I am actually very happy in terms of the implementation of the Constitution. On the security issue, clearly there are challenges, and the President did acknowledge that there are challenges. That is not new in this country. Everybody knows there are challenges in security. I think the issue was, what are the outlined actions and measures to address security? And I think the measures that you mentioned earlier are all measures that are clear. To answer or to respond to Millie on another matter, very many of the issues on the values or the other sectors of the report were specific issues that were done, whether it is gender equity or fighting corruption or the issue of security. Those are things that were done, not just things that are in the future. But because this speech that then will hopefully move for the next 1 year, you also have to state what you intend to do.
Duale, let me come to you, Adan. What have Jubilee MPs been doing in the House in as far as legislation that will help strengthen security? Because the president did say he's calling on Parliament to do that. The Jubilee coalition had promised, of course, that they would strengthen the ATPU's anti-terrorism police unit, I should say, its powers, talked about a shake-up of the NIS. We see nothing from the majority that you lead.
I think before even I go there, one, the president, his function today at Parliament is good. He has followed the constitutional provisions of Article 132 B and C. Number two, the president has tabled and has handed over the two speakers 3 key documents. One is the document basically on his speech, which is as per Article 10 on national values. Number two, the president has handed over to the National Assembly Kenya's international obligations on which Parliament is going to debate it. And finally, and more important, and people I think didn't get that, but I'm sure on Tuesday I'm going to do it, to table it, is within Article 247 of the national security in his presidency. So a lot of the security matters, what he intends, the challenges we are facing, the investment we have made is in that document. And I'm sure on Tuesday when that document is officially, well, it's a constitutional provision. So those 3 documents, and most of the one of the national security, will be tabled on Tuesday. It will be a public document. And because I have seen the document.
Fair enough. To the question, what have Jubilee members done in as far as legislation that is concerned on security?
I'm coming to it. Security is a challenge. The bit you're referring to is where the president said we need to look at, and I mean myself, Abdul Kadir and Mili had the privilege, and we served in the last parliament, where a number of legislation on security, the National Police Service Act, the National Intelligence Service Act, all were passed. So the president is throwing a challenge, not only to Jubilee, he's throwing a challenge to the whole legislative body of Parliament, that because of the sophisticated nature of terrorism, and I want to make it very clear, in 2011, 16 of my voters were killed in a church. I lost more than 80 people in Garissa alone.
So what are you doing to strengthen the powers of the anti-terrorism police unit?
What we are saying, the challenges that we are facing as a country, particularly on terrorism, is a global challenge. But what we need to do, and the president has challenged us, is that can we look at, as Parliament, from today's speech, can we look at the NSIS? For example, let me tell you, today our NSIS officers can have no arresting powers. Today, if they come in and they find a terrorist, they only give information. And I'm one person who believes that there is a gap, there is a missing link, that one is giving information and one is supposed to act on the information. So either the one who is giving the information is not giving the information, or is giving the information and is not.
But acting. Your MPs throughout the Westgate report, hold on a minute, you threw out the Westgate report, which had actually suggested the creation of a body that would be the liaising point, if you like, between different arms of security, so that we could actually act on information and intelligence.
I want my colleague to hear me, because she was in Parliament. That recommendation you are saying was not in that report.
It was not there.
It was not in that report, and she'll agree, the recommendation you are giving now is not in that report, and I want to confirm to you that it is the preserve of the plenary of Parliament to either adopt or reject a report based on the recommendation. And we felt from both sides of the House that what happened in Westgate, we wanted practical solutions.
And those were not there.
And particular people to take responsibility. It was not an easy work. For example, they said the Dadaab refugee camp should be closed. That is not a small matter. Kenya is a signatory to the Vienna Convention. And that's why we have a tripartite group. The report talks about we reopen our embassy in Mogadishu. The report talks about, and I'm sure you watched it on TV, that the Kenya government should fight Al-Shabaab. And I said it on the floor of the House. Even my 4-year-old baby knows, and the whole world knows, everybody is fighting Shabaab. So there was a serious inadequacy on that report. And I'm sure the recommendation you are reading to me was not part of that report. But I want to agree with you. We have a serious challenge transnational security challenges, terrorism, drugs, human trafficking. And as a country, we come back to our local. We have conflict of resource. We have the normal crime. We have cyber crime. But the biggest challenge, President Uhuru Kenyatta, I agree with the Kenyan who said, you have fixed everything, but we still have a challenge on security.
All right, we'll
And
be
we
back
must
to this discussion in a short while. We're taking a short break, and when we come back, I'd love to hear from my panel on what you think of the controversial shoot-to-kill order that was issued in order to fight crime. Stay with us.